I'd like to show you another scintillating game with the King's Gambit. But before I do that, I want to let you know about the discount day taking place on the ChessBase site. So for the next 24 hours, there's 25% off all DVDs and downloads. And that, of course, includes my PowerPlay series. So if you're interested in, well, the King's Gambit, if you're interested in the Queen's Gambit, or the Najdorf, or maybe an attacking repertoire for white with 1e4, then do check out my DVDs and downloads. 25% off for the next 24 hours. This is the ideal time to get one of those. There are also packages like there's an attacking package of 6 DVDs downloads, and also a strategy package again of 6 DVDs. So that can give you another discount as well, or end games or middle games. So do check out my PowerPlay series. There is 28 of them to choose from, and you'll find the link down there in the video description, and I'll put it in the comments as well. Don't miss out. So here we go. Back to the King's Gambit. So I'd like to show you a game between Francois Godart from Belgium, an international master from Belgium, and Bartlomiej Heberla from Poland, an experienced grandmaster. So it's a King's Gambit, and this was played in March of this year. So, I've been looking at some historical King's Gambits, and I want to come right up to date and show a game that was played really recently. And I want to demonstrate that this is an opening not just for the old times, not just for the immortal game in 1851, but right now. So this game is played in 2021, 170 years later, and this is great stuff. So g5. Now instead of, well, there are several moves here. For knight c3, and this is actually the move that I recommended on my DVD, my King's Gambit DVD. 25% off for the next 24 hours. Okay, I'll shut up now. And I really like this method of tackling this setup. So this is a very decent setup for black. Then instead of pushing on, which, well, disturbs the pawn, basically black wants to hold that pawn here, which shuts out that bishop on c1 and also closes the f-file. So my recommendation is to play the pawn to g3 to break up those pawns straight away. And I think this is a very dangerous line for white. Now, one can play like this with g4. But actually, I think this gives white very good play. Well, in this case, the knight can even come in straight away. But in general, white can play round those pawns. So here, black exchanges off. Now, this pawn is protected. So g5 pawn can't be taken in this position. But even so, I think white has very good compensation here for the pawn. I mean, I quite like the idea of castling queenside very quickly. And here one can even push on with d5 and disturb that knight. But bishop c4 is also a very good idea. And, well, why not? We're targeting the weakest square on the board, that f7 pawn. So often a theme in King's Gambit positions. And already there's a problem for black. If castle's kingside, then, well, it's quite clear this is going to be absolutely crushing. After this is taken and queen h5, I mean, one can see here that white has, well, I think excellent compensation for a pawn. You have the center, you have excellent piece development, and there's also the open or semi-open h-file and the f-file as well. So black has to think, okay, how am I going to get the king to safety? And he went for knight a5. I should say this is a rapid play game, played in the European Online Cup. So knight a5, hitting the bishop, which knocks it off that important diagonal, but the bishop is also well placed on d3, as we are about to see. d5, black strikes back in the center, which I think is very understandable. You know, these pawns in the middle feel as though they need countering. And here I think, well, white plays a tempting move, queen e2, which prepares to castle queenside and puts the queen on the same line as the king. Fair enough. Actually, there's an even stronger move, and that's knight e5. Preparing to put the queen on h5 and then castles queenside. This looks very, very tempting for white. So I think that is the best move. But queen e2, also very dangerous. Bishop g4 pins the knight to the queen. So black is fighting back. Pawn takes pawn on d5. And white is ready to castle queenside, and well, it's a double-edged position, but well, black makes a mistake here. Castles kingside. Okay, and now what is white's move? And white's attack here. Well, this is what drew me to this game, and is why we're looking at it now. This is scintillating stuff. Cheers. Bishop h7 check. Now, what I like about this, it's a little bit unusual. You know, we've seen plenty of games with this bishop takes pawn on h7 to bring the king out, but there's no pawn there, but it's still incredibly strong. So this bishop was taken. I should say that king h8 well also gives white a very strong attack after bishop takes pawn. But let's concentrate on the game move. King takes bishop, and the point is to drag this king to a very awkward square where it's check. Of course, the pawn is pinned, can't be taken, so king g8 and queen takes bishop on g4. That, of course, was the whole point. But at this moment, well, this knight can be taken, and that's what black did. So it's a piece sacrifice as well. I mean, black would probably do better to play like this. Nevertheless, this is very dangerous after white castles queenside, and it's a really easy attack. You know, all white's pieces can come into play, and well, we can see that this knight is in Siberia. That's the problem. Normally a queen in Siberia, but yeah, knight is bad enough. Knight on the rim and all that stuff. Anyway, pawn takes knight played. And white king reaches safety on the queen side. And this is just a beautiful attacking position. Here, black played queen c8, obviously wanting to trade queens. Let's just have a quick look at queen d6, which looks reasonable to bring the queen across here. But white flings the knight into the attack. And just let me show you a couple of variations. If that's taken, then queen takes queen, and rook here is mate. And if king f8, rook check, the knight blocks, and rook takes knight, white just keeps going. And here queen h4 threatens mate in the corner, and we just keep going. So if queen takes, rook takes, and then mate on h8. So the only way black has out is to give up that rook and go into an endgame. But of course, this is a winning endgame for white with 2 extra pawns. And, well, there's a danger of a mating net here as well, actually. So that was queen d6 we just looked at. But let's look at queen c8. So queen h4. And now the queen goes in. Okay, no immediate mate, but having got the queen on h7, we can now switch. So rook f1. And there is no good defense here. Queen takes knight, obviously a threat. And, well, white can also entertain ideas of rook takes pawn, followed by rook f1, check, and actually mate very shortly. So, yeah, it's a disaster for black. So queen d7, queen takes knight. So now white has the piece back. And now it's pretty plain sailing. That knight finally comes in from the cold. Nevertheless, white's attack is just too strong. Actually, there's a very, very neat way for white to finish this game. Perhaps you'd like to have a quick think. Okay, queen g5 check. The king goes back. And rook h1. So it's really nice that the queen covers the escape square, and then rook h8 will be mate on the next turn. Beautiful game. And yeah, we have international master from Belgium, Francois Godart, who's caught out his grandmaster opponent. That's what can happen with the King's Gambit. Don't forget, discount day on the ChessBase site, the ChessBase online shop. All PowerPlay DVDs and downloads, 25% off for the next 24 hours.